Welcome to the Holistic Glow podcast. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart, and I believe that it will help a lot of people. And it's about friendships and trauma bonding. So, as you can see, the title, it says that I don't have friendships because I don't trauma bond anymore. And the reason why I titled it that way is because we confuse a lot of friendships with trauma bonding. So what we call friendship is probably most times it's trauma bonding, especially when we're not healed yet, right? So I want to start with a positive note because I'm recently experienced a situation where I could have been in a very entangled relationship or friendship or whatever, which of course would be, trauma bonding. However, I did recognize it from start ahead of time before, I became entangled in that whole situation. And it just made me reflect on how much I've changed, how much I've healed, how much I've recognized these patterns that are just absolutely incredibly hurtful and painful. And so I was just very, very proud of the journey and the progress that I made. And I was so happy to recognize it for what it is. And then I had to look back and just remember the times where I used to be in trauma bondage relationships, right? When I didn't know it was trauma bonding. So part of my intention is to, again, shine light on this topic, which is trauma bonding. Usually trauma bonding is brought up in, relationships, romantic relationships. However, trauma bonding is very real in friendships as well. And sometimes we don't recognize it. Now, I want to talk about, of course, healing is a big part of it because, in order for you to attract certain people, you also had to be in that space emotionally or spiritually, right? Or mentally. So it takes two to tango, right? So, you really have to have some kind of healing in order to resolve this, right? If you no longer want to take part in, friendships or relationships that are not including trauma bonding experiences, then you do have to do some healing work. So I just want to start that, healing is very important because, relationships are mirrors, they're reflections, and that's what I did too. Like if I hadn't invested in my own healing and my own progress of changing who I am deep down, then I wouldn't have recognized this pattern ahead of time, and I probably would have in the same situation myself, because a lot of this stuff is a subconscious pattern. And it does require us to change certain things deep down and heal them, okay? So now for me, like I said, I used to have a lot of friendships or acquaintances or relationships, right? I was kind of like, my personality, my whole personality was like jack of all trades. So I used to be, agreeable to everyone and everything. And, I never really consciously chose certain friendships. Like I just kind of went with the flow, which what that means is I was led by my, patterns within me. And at the time, one of the patterns that I now recognize within myself was codependency, right? I was pretty much a codependent, person, or I had that identity. And so that ended up attracting people who were obviously takers, people normally would refer as narcissists, right? I also recognized that I had a very, very low self-esteem or self-worth. I think I would say maybe self-worth, low self-worth, which of course I had to mirror that and, attract people who had low self-worth. And very interestingly, I did attract a lot of people who had the father wound, right? Because for me, I lost my father when I was very, very young. And, I had to do just the math and how many people that I considered friends at the time did I attract, people who grew up without a father in the household, right? Most of them through death, right? Including my own, and a few just due to just childhood, separation, abandonment, right? They just didn't grow up with a father, or they didn't have a good relationships. But a lot of them was a father wound due to just losing a father, which is very, 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 very interesting. And I do really want you guys to consider the type of friendships that you have right now. Like, on what basis did you guys connect, right? That's what trauma bonding is about, is that what was the attraction factor? What was that instant that you felt connected with this person, right? So, for example, if you had an absent or emotionally unavailable father, or even physically unavailable, or like I said, death, right? And so you might attract friends who are in that same wound that you have. And so obviously that becomes an automatic dysfunction growing up without a father, right? So that dysfunction, that familiarity, that void is what you're going to have within you. And so that gets mirrored outside of you, and that becomes a safe zone for you, because that's what deep down, right? That's what you feel comfortable with, and you think that you feel seen at that moment when someone shares that same experience, same wound, right? So, and same thing with attracting people who are called narcissists, because if you believed that you're a person who had to just give and give and give in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, which is definition of codependency, right? You had to earn love, then you're gonna attract narcissists, because they love to take, and you're to give, so it becomes a perfect match, match made not in heaven, but maybe in hell, because this is not our authentic truth. So anyway, so you can see how these unhealed parts of ourselves can be reflected outside, and when we see that, we notice that we feel seen, we feel we found someone who understands us, right? So it can happen instantly, right? That trauma bonding happens when, basically when these relationships are built on pain, struggle, and shared wounds, right? So rather than, let's say, joy or mutual support, because the moment you connect on that, somehow it feels deep and intense. And so you feel you found each other, and you feel you guys are meant to be friends, because you get each other in a way. However, long term, the truth is it keeps us stuck in that pain, in that struggle, because that was the foundation of the relationship or the friendship. So for example, when it comes to codependency, you feel responsible for fixing others, saving others, carrying others' emotions. You feel responsible for their emotions. So, you are going to be taking that caretaker role, right? You're going to be helping your friend, saving them from their struggle or hardships and whatnot, because you're the saver, right? And somehow that relationship, the foundation of it becomes that, you're the caretaker and they're the victim somehow. And so you are benefiting from that because you want to feel seen, you want to feel needed. That's how you gain validation, right? And they also need that, because they also need that emotional support. They have a void that they want to fill in. They need that energy, right? They need that also validation, where someone, can sympathize with them and care for them and can be there for them when they need someone. So you can see how both of you have this mutual kind of benefit going on, However, like I said, it's not a healthy cycle, right? So, and it just continues to repeat itself because that's just how the foundation of the whole relationship is built on. And so this leads to experiencing, a lot of highs and lows, because that's the definition, that's the characteristics of trauma bonding relationships, right? So, for example, you end up feeling like, your friend trauma dumps on you, but they don't actually change, right? They just like the attention, or they may just disappear and then come back whenever they need you. And you like that too, because you have a lot of wounds as well, where you don't want that much of a commitment, but you like keeping your options open because it feels safe that way, right? You don't have to really commit, but you just really want to be needed, right? So you get that validation when they come back as well. And when they go away, you feel maybe a little anxious, but then you feel relief when they come back. So it kind of becomes like a little drug here, right? So it's kind of like this dependency on these emotional highs and lows. So this feels like you have a deep bond, but it's just toxic, right? So you get where I'm going with this. And now in the end, for me, when it clicked for me, it was that when I was in it, I did not know all these things were going on, obviously, right? It's when I did my healing journey that I opened my eyes. However, there was a moment where a light kind of switched on, right? And from then on, I could not unsee it for what it was. And so I thank God for that moment, because there was a time where, again, I was, being a codependent, I would just agree to everything that, my friends would say, or everybody would say, because I'm the person that keeps the peace. I'm the one who tends to their emotions. I'm the one who has taken the caretaker role. I'm the one who needs to be needed. I'm the one who needs the validation, right? So it's not really an authentic friendship. It's just, again, based on trauma bonding. However, you're just stuck in that cycle. So there was this moment where I realized, somebody helped me realize that, I was too agreeable. I didn't have my own voice. I did not express my own opinions, right? I did not bring my values into that friendship or relationship, right? I was just hiding who I was. I was just trying to, tailor myself to fit people's needs. But once I saw that, once that light turned on, then that's when I started to realize, okay, you know what? I've been overextending myself. I've been giving too much. I have been seeking validation. I have been a codependent. This is not a real friendship. What do we even have in common? Do we have the same values? Do we have the same passion? Do we like doing certain things? Do we even know who we are? Do we have a real authentic identity aside from our wounds? So all these questions started coming to me, and as soon as I was aware, of course I could not continue doing the same things that I did, because I started seeing it for what it was. So now once I realized that this isn't real friendship, this is kind of in a way toxic and unhealthy on both ends, right? Then the healing journey started to come in automatically. And of course, one of the things that I started doing was like maybe not responding the same way how I used to respond, right? I started conserving my energy. I started taking back my energy. I started to say no for the first time, right? I used to be the person who was always agreeable, right? Like a people pleaser, codependent, right? Putting other people's first was how I built those relationships. But when I started saying no and started, listening to my own needs and kind of prioritizing my own needs, then those relationships started shifting, right? Because then the basis of those friendship was that. So when that changed, then, the friendships started to lose meaning or started to lose purpose in a sense, right? Because I'm breaking the cycle by doing the opposite. So now once I started doing that, then people started to question it, like, what are you doing? Why is this happening? You're changing, right? Through different means, right? Of course, people weren't happy. Some of them were distant. Some of them wanted to let go. Some of them were misunderstanding. Some of them weren't willing to grow with me because I was trying to grow. So a lot of them couldn't survive, basically. And I couldn't handle all that because, again, I just had this huge realization that pretty much all my life it was fake relationships, fake situationships, fake relationships, friendships, whatever, based that were built on wounds and not shared values. So for me, I had to take my time to figure out why. How did I let this happen? How come, I came all this way in the, in this situation? So I had to really step back and listen to my own self, and this became a transition period for me where, was a moment to heal. Not a moment, but like a time to heal. Now, the healing journey itself during that time, it's very, very lonely. It can be really lonely because you can feel like you just lost yourself. Everything that you thought was real about you, it just crumbles. So you'll be really, really lonely, and you don't have a way to explain to people what happened because you're just in this deep healing journey. So just expect it to be lonely if you're going through it. But after the fact, right, you understand now what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like, right? You might not be perfect, but at least you have an idea. You have an idea of what it is that a healthy relationship includes. And it's not trauma bonding, right? So now, how can you form a relationship that doesn't revolve around pain? Because that is so exhausting. That is just, it's too painful. Life is already hard enough. You don't want to add another so-called friendship that's going to just expand your problems, right? So this is when, I would call people, attracting people who would, help you struggle in life, right? You really don't want that. You don't want people, right, or friendships, whatever, to come into your life that are going to make things worse. Because you're already, trust me, life is already hard. You're tired. You're exhausted, right? Don't you want a friendship that's going to expand you, a friendship that's going to enlighten you, that's going to inspire you, that's full of joy? And that doesn't mean that there won't be a part of that friendship where you're going to be supportive to each other through your struggles, of course. But what would you want the foundation of that relationship to be? And it's definitely not pain, right? Because the pain, if it's the foundation of that friendship or relationship, trust me, it's never gonna be beyond that. It's still gonna keep you stuck, and you're still gonna be keeping yourself in that cycle, right? Where you just feel the toxicity of it like every day, right? It's gonna take a lot of energy. So, but when friendships, right, when you stop bonding over wounds, right, and you start bonding over growth, well, that's the kind of friendship that you want to build, right? So when you first meet someone, make sure you're bonding over good things, positive things, right? Maybe on passion, what makes you passionate, maybe on the things that you like to do, things that light you up, things that make you feel expansive, empowered, right? Like maybe based on a purpose, maybe on a cause, right? Build your friendships on positives, maybe just pure support, just pure love for each other as human beings, sisterhood, real true sisterhood, right? Now, like I said, after your healing journey, you're so used to being alone because that's how you do your healing. It's like you can't do your healing while maintaining all the friendships, the old toxic friendships that you had. It's kind of like an automatic process, right? So now once you're by yourself and you dig deep through yourself, find who you are, what you like, what your values are, right? And you start reflecting that to the world, and that's when you're going to be able to attract people who are on the same frequency as you, right? Like who also know who they are, who also know what they like to do. And that's how you can bond, is on the commonalities that you have, on the positive commonalities that you have, as opposed to the negative commonalities that you have. And that will definitely help you expand and grow both of you as people. And from then on, you will not tolerate any kind of toxic friendship. Because for what? Because you've just learned to be alone, to love your solitude. You've just learned to be enough on your own, right? You've healed your codependency. You no longer need to be needed. You've healed your people-pleasing tendencies, right? You no longer need to be validated. You feel whole. So this is, part of the process of all this is also about becoming whole within yourself, right? So once you learn that you're enough and you're whole and you are a whole human being on your own and you don't need other external things to validate you, to make you feel like you're worthy or enough, then you will be seeking friendships for the sake of, just enriching each other's life, not based on dependency, right? So because of that, because you're comfortable in who you are, then you will not tolerate any kind of toxicity. You would rather just not have any friends or relationships than be in a toxic relationship, right? So you're not going to have a relationship or a friendship for the sake of having a relationship, but you're just going to have that relationship or friendship because you know that it's worth it. You know that it's something really expansive. You know that when two of you meet, there's something else that happens more magnificent, right? So again, one more time, healing will cost you people. Healing will cost you your whole lifestyle, your whole identity that you thought that you had. However, it will not cost you real relationship, real love, real support, real friendships, real connections, right? So you'll have that where those do not require you to stay wounded to keep them. So if you're in a season of loneliness where you just feel like you lost a lot of relationships, situations, friendships, just know that, you're the real friendship that you're meant for are, friendships that you can have once you're healed and once you're whole. Like those relationships are going to be waiting for you. So keep growing, keep working on yourself, keep healing. And one day you realize that you're surrounded by people who match your peace and not your pain. So when that day comes, you'll finally understand that you never really lost anyone. You just found yourself. Okay? I hope that inspires you to look at the friendships that you have right now, and if they are toxic, then I need you to just stop for a moment and question why you attract to certain people in your life. And usually, like I said, it takes two to tango, so you have to take your own responsibility and heal that part of you that is attracted to this kind of wounding or trauma bonding based relationships. And once you start healing, you're going to lose those friendships, social situationships, and that is okay. You're going to feel lonely maybe at times, but you're going to embrace your solitude because then you'll feel comfortable just being you on your own. And after that, you'll be attracting people based off of your wholeness and not your lack and not your pain or your wound. So that's the whole process of it. And trust me, it feels so empowering to finally be aware of this toxicity as soon as it starts creeping into your life, because life is going to test you even after the fact to see if you've actually changed, because how would you know you're changed if you're not tested? So for me, I felt really, really happy and even proud of myself for saying no. I won't trauma bond with you anymore. I'm not going to be attracted to that toxicity. I'm not going to save you from your victimhood or your misery. Yes, I do feel your pain. I can understand that, you're going through pain. But when someone comes into my life with all their baggage, with all their pain, with all their suffering, and they expect me to offer them a lot of sympathy, a lot of advice, which, by the way, advice they won't follow. I've checked, trust me. Or they don't appreciate either. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do it. And the interesting part, right, with people who are really, really toxic, and again, I don't want to label anybody, but That's how it can present as when someone has no accountability. They don't know how to take responsibility. They don't know how to reflect on their actions. Then that person could just really become really toxic. So those people, when they first come into your life, they have this persona, right? They want to pull you in, lure you in, right? By being so nice and kind and, peaceful or seeming peaceful, but then they want to trap you into that cycle. So you have to be really, really, really aware. And I do think that I was really aware of that. And I'm proud of that for transcending and just, not engaging in that, because it's too painful to be in that situation again after all the investment that I did in myself to heal myself. So I want to inspire you that, you'll feel really happy about yourself, and you're obviously resolving a generational trauma and cycle, right? So you'll be a good example for your kids on how you can set good boundaries, how you can set, proper, limits, and have great relationships and friendships. I think it really affects the quality of your life. Who you hang out with, who you spend your time with, you're going to become that person eventually. It's going to determine where you go in life. It's going to determine how successful you're going to be or how unsuccessful you're going to be. So who you hang out with is not a joke. And I don't know why, but I don't think there's a lot of talk about friendships and how it can really influence our lives. So I hope to do that more in this channel. So hopefully this will help you move forward in life in a better way. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one. Take care and bye.